gangs, cartels. They look like God's country to you.
The sun bleeds across Montana's horizon, but this isn't the Yellowstone you remember. The Dutton Ranch is gone, sold off in pieces, scattered like ashes across land that once stood defiant against the world. What rises in its place isn't legacy. It's corruption wrapped in corporate smiles and political handshakes. The West is dying again. But this time, the killers wear suits. Why Marshals doesn't pick up where Yellowstone left off. It slams into the aftermath like a freight train through fog. This is the story of what happens when empires fall and vultures circle. When the law itself becomes the last line between civilization and chaos. And trust me, that line is razor thin. Meet U.S. Marshal Kane Riley. The name carries weight because Dutton blood runs in his veins, distant but undeniable. He's not here to rebuild an empire. He walked away from that world years ago, chose the badge over the brand, and never looked back. Until now, Kane's face tells stories his mouth won't. Lines carved by regret, scars from wars that never really ended. He lost his partner in a raid gone sideways, and this assignment to Broken Ridge is punishment disguised as duty. But here's the thing about punishment. Sometimes it's exactly where you need to be. The premiere episode, Badge of Blood, wastes no time. Kane rolls into Broken Ridge with dust on his boots and ghosts on his conscience. The town feels wrong from the first frame. Locals eye strangers like they're already dead. Whispers fill the air about missing ranchers and livestock that vanish in the night. Nobody talks. Nobody trusts. They've seen Marshals before, bought off or buried. Kane's different. Though, he's got something most lawmen here lack. He knows this land, every hidden trail, every forgotten grave. The Dutton name might be poison to some, but it's also a skeleton key to secrets buried deep. Enter Sarah Harland, young widow, eyes burning with quiet fury. Her husband died in what officials called a hunting accident, but Sarah knows murder. When it stares back from a coroner's report, she's no damsel waiting for rescue. Raised on horseback with a rifle in hand, Sarah's the kind of woman who rides into storms instead of hiding from them. She suspects the syndicate behind her husband's death, and when she brings her suspicions to Kane, something shifts. He sees the same fire that burned in the Duttons, the refusal to bend, the willingness to bleed for what's right. Sarah's not just asking for justice. She's demanding war. Behind every shadow in Broken Ridge stands Victor Slade, businessman, predator, architect of Montana's new future, whether Montana wants it or not. Slade's got plans for a massive resort that would flood sacred valleys and displace generations. His private army of X-Marks enforces his will with bullets and intimidation. The man doesn't just want land, he wants erasure, every trace of the old ways, every memory of families who bled into the soil gone, replaced with luxury condos and artificial lakes. Progress, he calls it. Genocide, whispers Sarah. Kane sees it for what it is. The same fight the Duttons waged, just wearing different masks. But Kane doesn't work alone. Deputy Marshal Lena Torres enters the picture like a bullet through glass, sharp, precise, deadly. She's from the borderlands, carries her own demons in a backpack full of trauma. A cartel betrayal cost her family everything, left her with nightmares and a talent for tracking that borders on supernatural. Lena's tech-savvy instincts clash hard with Kane's old-school methods. He trusts his gut, she trusts data. They argue. They push, but together, they're a force that makes Slade's men nervous. Their partnership crackles with tension from day one. Two wounded souls trying to build something good from broken pieces. The episode kicks into high gear when Kane and Lena chase a lead to an abandoned mine. The intel promises answers about Slade's operation, but intel always lies. The mine's darkness swallows them whole. Flashlights cutting weak paths through decades of dust and decay. Then they find it, a cache of smuggled weapons, military grade. Enough firepower to start a small war. Before they can process what this means, gunfire erupts. Muzzle flashes light up the tunnels like lightning, bullets ricochet off stone walls. Echoes turning one shooter into a dozen. Kane takes a round to the shoulder. Hot pain screaming through muscle, he grits through it, returning fire with a kind of precision you only earn by surviving things that should have killed you. Lena's not just backup. She's salvation. Her movements are calculated, efficient, covering Kane as he bleeds and fights. They push toward the exit, dragging evidence with them, a ledger, names, numbers. High-profile bribes that connect Slade's syndicate to people who should be protecting Montana, not selling it. But escape comes with a price. Jax Harlan's voice crackles over a radio they grab from a dead merc. Jax is Sarah's estranged brother, twisted by greed into something she doesn't recognize anymore. His words are venom. You took something of mine. I'll take everything from you. It's not a threat, it's a promise. And Jax Harlan keeps his promises written in blood back in Broken Ridge. Kane learns the town's corruption runs deeper than Slad's payroll. The local sheriff is compromised, pocket-lined with syndicate cash. When Kane confronts him on the dusty main street, it's not with words, it's with fists. The fight is brutal, raw, two men trading pain under the Montana sun while townspeople watch from windows. Kane wins, but barely, battered and bleeding. He earns something more valuable than victory, respect, the kind you can't buy. The kind the Duttons understood. People start talking, quiet at first, then louder. Maybe this Marshal is different, maybe he's the real thing. Night falls heavy over Broken Ridge. Sarah finds Kane at his motel, cheap room with walls too thin and memories too thick. She brings a flask of whiskey, sits beside him under stars that watched the Duttons rise and fall. They share silence first, then words. Sarah reveals a map her husband hid before he died, marking syndicate hideouts across the old Dutton lands. Her voice stays steady, but fear bleeds through the cracks. This fight's bigger than us. Bigger than revenge. It's about whether Montana survives or becomes another playground for the rich. Kane studies the map, traces routes he remembers from childhood visits to family he tried to forget. The weight of legacy presses down like a physical thing. He nods. Doesn't promise victory, just promises to fight. The episode builds toward a cliffhanger that hits like a gut punch. Lena works through the night, decoding messages from the ledger they stole. Her eyes burn from screen glare, fingers flying across keyboards. Then she finds it, hidden in encrypted files. Plans for an imminent attack on a Native American reservation bordering the old ranch. The land is rich with untapped resources, and Slade wants it bad enough to kill for it. Sirens wail in the distance as Kane loads his revolver, each bullet sliding home with deliberate purpose. The weight of what's coming settles in his chest. This isn't just law enforcement anymore, it's war, and war demands everything. Cut to Victor. Slade in his opulent office, leather chairs, expensive art. The spoils of conquest displayed like trophies. He stares at a photo of the Dutton Ranch in flames, the image capturing the moment an empire died. His smile is cold satisfaction. The West is mine now, he murmurs to the empty room, but he's wrong. The West isn't conquered. It's wounded, angry, waiting for someone brave enough or stupid enough to stand in the gap. That someone is Kane Riley, whether he's ready or not. The screen fades to black on his face. Determination mixed with dread, knowing he's stepping into the same abyss that swallowed his kin. Throughout Badge of Blood, flashbacks weave through present action like ghosts demanding attention. We see young Kane visiting the Dutton Ranch, watching his cousin argue with developers. John Dutton's presence looms even in memory, that unyielding stare that bent reality through sheer will. Kane remembers the day he chose the Marshal service over family loyalty, the arguments that followed, the burned bridges. Those memories aren't nostalgia, they're warnings. Every Dutton who fought for this land paid in blood. The family curse isn't legend, it's pattern. And Kane's walking straight into it, eyes open. Because some fights choose you whether you want them or not. What makes this premiere so devastating is how it honors Yellowstone's legacy, while carving its own brutal path. This isn't a retread, it's evolution. The Duttons fought to keep their empire. Kane fights because empires are dead and something needs to rise from the ashes. The show understands that the West's mythology was always about more than cowboys and cattle. It's about the eternal struggle between those who take and those who protect. Between progress that destroys and preservation that stagnates. There are no clean answers here. Just hard choices made by harder people in a landscape that doesn't forgive weakness. The character work is exceptional. Kane Riley isn't John Dutton reborn. He's the question mark at the end of that legacy. What happens when you inherit fire but choose water? When the family name is both weapon and burden? His relationship with Lena develops through conflict and grudging respect. To damaged people who recognize pain in each other, Sarah Harlan could have been a plot device. The grieving widow who motivates the hero. Instead, she's a warrior in her own right, refusing to be sidelined in her own story. The chemistry between these three crackles because none of them trust easy. But they need each other to survive what's coming. Victor Slade makes for a terrifying antagonist because he's not wrong about everything. Progress does demand change. The old ways can't sustain forever. But his version of progress is strip mining souls for profit margins. It's displacement dressed as development. He represents every force that ever looked at wild land and saw only dollar signs, every corporation that views people as obstacles to quarterly earnings. Slad's not chaos, he's calculated destruction, which makes him far more dangerous than any simple villain. He's the system given form and teeth. And Jax Harlan, Sarah's corrupted brother, adds personal stakes that cut deeper than politics. Family betrayal always hurts worse. The episode's technical execution matches its narrative ambition. Cinematography captures Montana's brutal beauty. Wide shots that make humans look small against endless sky and ancient stone. The color palette is desaturated, washed out like old photographs, emphasizing how the present is haunted by the past. Action sequences don't glorify violence. They're messy, desperate, painful. When King takes that shoulder wound in the mine, you feel it. When fists connect in the street fight, there's weight behind every blow. This isn't Hollywood choreography. It's survival captured on film. The sound design does heavy lifting too, silence used as weapon. Wind carrying whispers. Gunshots that echo like thunder in your chest. The pacing is relentless but never rushed. Badge of Blood gives viewers just enough space to breathe before the next crisis hits. Character moments land between action beats, quiet conversations that reveal motivations and fears. The script trusts its audience to keep up. Doesn't hold hands or over-explain. If you're confused, lean in closer, pay attention. The answers are there in glances and subtext, in what people don't say as much as what they do. This is television that respects intelligence, demands engagement, rewards investment. You can't watch this casually. It grabs your throat from frame one and doesn't let go. What's most impressive is how Marshall sets up an entire season's worth of questions while delivering a complete, satisfying episode. We know the major players now, understand the central conflict, feel the stakes in our bones. But the mysteries multiply with every answer. Who is the anonymous source promising alliance? What really happened to the Denton Ranch after John's death? How deep does the corruption go? Is there any way to win against a system designed to crush opposition? The premiere doesn't promise easy resolutions. It promises blood, betrayal, and the slim possibility of redemption earned through sacrifice. The episode's final moments crystallize everything. Kane standing in the motel parking lot, rain starting to fall, washing nothing clean. He stares at the mountains where Dutton land once stretched unbroken, Lena beside him, silent but present, Sarah in her truck, checking ammunition with practiced hands. They're not heroes, they're survivors who refuse to run anymore. The camera pulls back, making them small against the vast darkness of Montana night. But small doesn't mean powerless. Sometimes the biggest changes start with one person. Who says no? Who draws a line? Who decides some things are worth dying for? That's where Marshals plants its flag. In the messy, complicated space where justice meets revenge, where duty intersects with personal demons, this premiere is a declaration of intent. Marshals isn't here to comfort viewers with familiar patterns or easy answers. It's here to challenge, to provoke, to drag you through mud and blood until you understand what the West really costs. The Dutton era ended in fire and failure. What rises from those ashes won't be another dynasty. It'll be something harder, something forged in the reality that one family can't hold back the tide alone. But maybe, just maybe, a handful of broken people with badges and guns and stubborn refusal to quit can make a difference. Can protect what's worth protecting. Can ensure the West doesn't die quietly in boardrooms and backroom deals. Badge of Blood succeeds because it understands legacy isn't about repetition, it's about transformation. Kane Riley carries Dutton blood, but he's writing his own story in his own way. The show honors Yellowstone's themes while pushing into darker, more complex territory. There's no ranch to defend here, no family empire to preserve. Just people trying to do right in a world designed to reward wrong. That's more relatable than billionaire ranchers. More urgent than dynasty politics. This is the West stripped to raw essentials, land, justice, survival. And the question that haunts every frame, what are you willing to sacrifice for what you believe? The performances sell it all. Every actor brings lived-in authenticity to their roles. Kane's weariness feels earned, Lena's anger burns righteous. Sarah's grief transforms into purpose before our eyes. Even Slade and Jax aren't cartoon villains. They're humans who made choices, followed paths that seemed reasonable until they weren't. The show refuses to let anyone off easy with simplistic moral categories. Everyone's compromised. Everyone's bleeding. The only question is who bleeds for something that matters. That nuance elevates Marshals from good to exceptional, from entertaining to essential viewing. As the credits roll on Badge of Blood, you're left breathless and hungry for answers. Hungry for justice, hungry to see how this story unfolds. Across territory as dangerous as anything Yellowstone ever showed us. This isn't comfortable television. It's not supposed to be. The West never was comfortable. It was harsh and beautiful and unforgiving. Marshals captures that truth in every frame. Every line, every bullet fired. This is prestige television. That earns the label bold storytelling that takes risks, character work that cuts deep, action that serves story instead of replacing it, and above all, respect for the audience's intelligence and emotional investment. The Marshals' war has begun. Slad's empire stands tall, but cracks are forming. Cain, Lena, and Sarah are outnumbered, outgunned, and out of time, but they've got something Slade doesn't. They've got nothing left to lose and everything to fight for. That makes them the most dangerous people in Montana. As viewers, we're locked in now, committed to seeing this through. Because why? Marshals doesn't just want your attention, it demands your soul. And if you're brave enough to give it, you'll be rewarded with television that reminds you why stories matter, why the fight for justice never really ends, why some legacies burn brightest after they're supposed to be dead. If this breakdown ignited that same fire in you, if you're ready to ride into the chaos alongside these Marshals, then hit that like button, subscribe to stay locked in for every episode breakdown, every twist analyzed, every secret uncovered. Drop a comment below with your theories. Who's the anonymous source? Can Sarah forgive herself for what's coming? Will Cain survive the Dutton curse? Let's talk about it. The Marshals' ride continues, and you don't want to miss what happens when the West truly wakes up angry. See you in the next one. Why Marshals Episode 1 doesn't just meet expectations. It shatters them and rebuilds something darker. Something more ambitious than anyone could have anticipated. After watching Badge of Blood, one thing becomes crystal clear. This isn't a cash grab riding Yellowstone's coattails. It's a legitimate successor that understands what made the original work, while fearlessly charting its own territory. The decision to shift focus from family dynasty to law enforcement might seem like a departure, but it's actually genius. The Dutton story was always about power, corruption, and the cost of defending what you love. Why Marshals takes those exact themes and explodes them across a wider canvas, where the stakes affect entire communities, not just one powerful family. What impressed me most is the show's refusal to soften anything for broader appeal. This premiere is uncompromising in its violence, its moral complexity, its willingness to let characters make terrible choices for understandable reasons. When Cain takes that bullet in the mine, there's no heroic shrug-it-off moment. He bleeds. He hurts. He keeps fighting because stopping means dying, not because he's superhuman. That authenticity permeates every scene. These feel like real people ground down by impossible circumstances, not action figures going through choreographed motions. The grit isn't aesthetic. It's foundational to who these characters are and what they're fighting against. Cain Riley as a protagonist is a masterstroke of character design. Making him a distant Dutton relation instead of a direct descendant gives the show freedom to explore legacy without being chained to it. He's got the blood, the knowledge, the connection to that mythology, but he chose a different path. He rejected the empire building for something messier and arguably more noble. Being a marshal isn't glamorous. It's thankless work that gets you shot at for government pay. But it's also the thin line between civilization and chaos. Cain represents the question Yellowstone never fully answered. What if someone with Dutton toughness used it to protect instead of possess? What if that legendary stubbornness served justice instead of self-interest? The character works because he's complicated, scarred by choices both good and bad, trying to do right while carrying a name that's synonymous with morally gray warfare. Lena Torres and Sarah Harland aren't sidekicks or romantic interests first. They're fully realized characters with agency, skills, and trauma that drives them. Lena's tech expertise balanced against Cain's old-school methods creates natural conflict that never feels forced. She's not there to admire the male lead. She's there because she's the best at what she does, and what she does is track predators through digital and physical landscapes until they've got nowhere left to hide. Sarah could have been reduced to grieving widow motivation, but the show gives her teeth. She shoots. She strategizes. She makes hard calls. When she reveals that map to Cain, it's not a damsel providing a clue, it's a warrior sharing intelligence. Because she recognizes an ally worth trusting. The women in Why Marshals aren't decoration. They're combatants who'll determine whether this war is won or lost. Victor Slade works as an antagonist because he's not cartoonishly evil. He genuinely believes he's bringing progress to a backwards region from his perspective. He's the hero modernizing Montana, creating jobs, building infrastructure. The fact that this requires displacing people and destroying ecosystems is just the cost of doing business. That's what makes him terrifying. He's every real-world developer who's ever looked at poor communities and seen real estate potential. Every corporation that's valued profit over people and slept fine doing it. Slade represents systemic evil, the kind that's legal, celebrated, even until someone with a badge and a conscience says no. His conflict with Cain isn't just physical, it's ideological. Two visions of the West colliding with enough force to reshape everything.